It began as a summer adventure. We came to Transylvania to study the folklore of vampires. We chanced upon an ancient malevolent creature named Radu, who coveted the Bloodstone to which his brother Stefan was rightful heir. In vengeance, Radu slaughtered my friends and mingled his blood with mine. Stefan destroyed him with a stake through the heart, infused me with his own blood, and lay me down to be reborn, a vampire.
Stefan for polluting her with his goodness.
Destroy her before she destroys you.
My desire for her is more sublime. I yearn to see her suffer.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Bears Presents The Bear Cave of Terror. I'm your hairy, heavy homo and horror fan host, Steve Morey. Each week, here in the Bear Cave, I invite a horror-loving guest who brings with them one of their favorite scary movies. It can be classic, gory, trashy, obscure, well-known, straight-to-video, or something probably still banned in Britain. In other words, a thrilling work of cinematic terror that we think that you might enjoy. In each episode, we'll dig into the flesh and bone of the film, highlighting our favorite scary moments, as well as stories and details from beyond the screen, all while our guest imparts their deep and possibly concerning love for this week's frightful vision unto you, our dear listener. And with me for the first time is Mr. Casey Kelderman. Casey, thank you for joining.
Hey, thank you for having me, Steve.
Now, Casey, you, I'll say you have a love for horror movies, just a little bit.
A little.
I would consider you a massive expert on all things horror and crazy cool, and gory and everything. Now you have a podcast as well.
Yeah, I am one of the co-hosts of the Screams from the Basement podcast, where myself and co-host Sam Lenz, every other week we talk about a double feature, and then on opposite weeks we interview people from film, TV, comic books, anyone horror related that we want to talk to. We interview every other week. But yeah, we've been doing that 3 years now, roughly. So yeah, we have a blast with it. It's so much fun, and Sam and I either love the same movies or we will go head to head in combat on our episodes. So it's a toss up for our listeners. It's a toss up if we're both going to love it, or if one of us is going to love it and the other one's going to hate it, and we're going to fight about it.
Which is pretty awesome. I love that. And I also like the the rankings that you guys do are pretty fun, because there are some surprising surprising choices that either of you will make sometimes in where you might rank a certain film or, certain genre. So it's pretty neat. I do really enjoy your podcast, and I am really happy and really grateful that you've decided to join me today to talk about a particular film that you really love and I hadn't seen for about a quarter of a century. And what movie was that?
We are talking the full moon feature straight-to-video classic from Ted Nicolau, Subspecies 2 Bloodstone. One of my favorites, maybe my favorite full moon movie in their entire, 200 movie catalog, maybe 300 movies, something like that. I think it's I think it's not only my favorite, I think it's the best of their catalog. I think it's right up there with some of Stuart Gordon's movies that he did with Charlie Band at Full Moon. But I think this is kind of the cream of the crop, the one that stands above all of the others.
I've seen like a lot of the early 90s Full Moon films that are, the ones that everybody kind of remembers, the Puppet Masters. I think the first 4 Puppet Masters were really good. I didn't realize that they had made another 16 of them.
Yeah.
knew that there have been a few here and there, but yeah, 20 at least. Some of the early like Dollman versus Demonic Toys, those I've seen, I loved. And of course the first 3 Subspecies films that I'd seen. But again, a lot of that was a long time ago. And, when I used to haunt my local video store multiple times during the week and just pull everything that they had off the shelf that was in the horror section, or on USA Up All Night when I was much younger, because Full Moon was a frequent flyer on USA's late night programming. So, I think I might have seen the first Puppet Master maybe like 4 or 5 times just on USA in the evenings. They really like to show it, but as I said, it's been a long time since I've seen the Subspecies films, and I made sure not to watch the first one because I knew you wanted to talk about the sequel, and I was like, what about the sequel is really special? And we'll talk about that. But first, what's it about? What happens in Bloodstone?
It's actually funny you didn't rewatch the first one, because there's an entire whole movie before the second one. But what Subspecies 2 does so well is that it takes what happens in that first movie, which I like. I think it's good, not great, like I do think 2 and 3 are. And I think what makes it great is some of the changes that they make, and we'll talk about. But this movie here takes place right after the events of Subspecies 1, where in that first movie, there was 3 college girls who make their way to Romania to investigate and learn more about vampire lore in Romania, which they believe is not real, until they meet Radu. Which Radu is this Nosferatu-looking vampire, very gangly, grotesque, long white fingers, pale white skin, really like elongated, just pale white face, long black hair, wears a cool-ass trench coat, total 90s vampire, and he's awesome. And so in this movie, it takes place right after Subspecies 1, and that's where we get our main character, now played by Denise Duff, who I think she's really what makes 2 and 3 stand apart from the first one. She's incredible in this. She has now become half human, half vampire, and she's slowly becoming more and more vampire as she cannot live during the day. She has to hide during the day, be awake at night, and then also goes to like cool metal clubs to find dudes to suck the blood from in this movie, until her sister shows up in Romania looking for her, and she teams up with this U.S. embassy agent, I guess is what you'd call him. Anyway, they go on the hunt looking for her and end up getting wound up into Radu's evil plan to take hold of the Bloodstone.
Again, like the first movie, if you hadn't seen it, the first few minutes of this movie, the character of Michelle gives a quick narration that tells you pretty much everything you need to know. She had her friends are now dead. She's been bitten. She's turning into a vampire. She's in love with the good vampire from the first movie, Stefan. And she and he are going to be together for all eternity because now he has the Bloodstone and his horrible, nasty brother Radu is dead for a couple minutes. And then, of course, we get the titular Subspecies that played a much larger role in the first movie. But in this one, they really only show up at the beginning to move Radu's head slightly closer to his body and to remove the stake that's been stabbed through his heart. And what normally would kill any other canonical movie vampire really just kind of was inconvenient for poor Radu. And thankfully, once his Subspecies kind of reconnect the head, everything in a very cool sequence where like the spine and like the veins sort of come in and pull the head back onto his body, he's like good as new, ready to take revenge on his brother, which he does. Very messy, very cool, very gross. If you've seen Horror of Dracula, that scene where at the end where he's just Christopher Lee is getting disintegrated by the sun, that does not hold a candle to this really cool effects for getting rid of Stefan. And by the end of it, he's just dust too that Radu's stomping on. But before he can kill our heroine, the sun comes up, so he has to go and hide. And then Michelle spends the rest of the time running from him but really ineffectually. I mean, he's right behind her the whole time, or just literally hanging outside the window.
Yeah.
While she's, I'm going to get away. I'm going to go to Bucharest. I'll be safe there. And no, not at all. But yeah, I loved her journey in this. Again, it's continued in the third one, but if you're just watching the second one, she really goes through all the emotions here. I mean, this is a girl she's becoming a vampire, and it was cool when she was going to be with her eternal boyfriend, but now that he's gone and there's just the really creepy dude with the long fingers to deal with, she's not into it anymore.
I mean, I can't blame her. Like those fingers. No, you don't want those fingers next to you every night. No.
Oh, no. I mean, well, maybe some women would. Maybe. Depends on how well he's had several hundred years to work those out. But yeah, I mean, he's constantly drooling blood. He doesn't look like he washes his hair that often. I could get why she doesn't want to hang around with. Oh, and he's also a murderous monster. But she's got the Bloodstone, and this Bloodstone is really cool because it can provide a vampire, like sustenance. It creates sort of like a blood liquid or blood elixir so that they don't actually have to drink humans, so they can live for hundreds of years without having to be around other people. Now that she's got that, great, he wants it back. But yeah, so I loved how tight this cast was. It's very small. You have, you've got the character of Michelle. You've got, Denise Duff. You have Radu himself, Anders Hove, Melanie Shatner, William Shatner's daughter, who plays Michelle's sister, Rebecca. I think it's like Kevin Spiritus, who plays embassy guy Mel.
Kevin Spiritus, who at this point was already a horror icon in Hills Have Eyes Part 2 and Friday the 13th Part 7.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Oh, man. And he also, I did read that he does make another appearance after 2 and 3. He does make another appearance in the 5th installment of Subspecies.
In the 5th one, yep.
But, I mean, it's really them. And then also the character Popescu is kind of like a Van Helsing kind of professor. Not as cool, not as long-lived as Van Helsing, but he's played by Michael Danish. So, there's a couple other side characters, but there's one we haven't mentioned yet who gets introduced in this movie, and she is probably one of the fucking coolest and grossest characters that they could throw in here, and that is the character of Mummy, or Mommy, played by Pamela Gordon. And man, I don't know, what could you say about her?
I think the thing about this is when people watch Subspecies 2 now, all these years later, I think we're over 30 plus years removed from this movie first coming out on video, is that it was straight to video. It came out like this. I'm holding up the VHS tape of it right now. Like, this is how it came out on a video cassette. And looking at the effects in this movie, it's insane what they were able to pull off, not only on a straight to video movie, but on a movie that I think cost under $200,000. Granted, they were shooting in Romania and it was extremely cheap for the production to shoot there. But also, like, you still need to have incredible special effects like this if you're going to try to pull them off. And they do. Like you said, with the subspecies little creatures at the beginning. That's what sold me on this one the first time I watched it, where I was like, oh, we're on a next level here from just like regular full moon schlocky special effects and kind of just straight to video movies to like, oh, we're doing something next level with this. And then the character of Mummy, who's not in the first film, she is just decked out head to toe in practical effects. Like, this suit she's wearing, it looks like a completely different person. It looks like something out of Army of Darkness. Like, that's what it looks like. And the special effects in Army of Darkness are one of the best of all time. So to have that in a straight to video movie around the same time is pretty crazy.
Oh yeah. The makeup artist in this one who created Mummy, who created the look, is between Wayne Toth and Norman Cabrera. And Wayne Toth specifically, he did come up with sort of like the look for this character. And I think the note he had, from Ted Nicolau, the director, was insect-like or something. And I don't know how much insect-like she looks, but she looks like she's been just rotting away for 1,000 years, which she has, underground. So her eyes are basically just sockets, with just, it's just gross. Like all her skin is rotting off. Her ears are so detailed. It's just every little bit of her is disgusting and fantastic.
Yeah, she's exactly what you expect from, like, if you were reading Hansel and Gretel for the first time, you're like, oh, that's what the witch looks like. Okay, got it. It just looks like Mum.
Yeah, I would not accept gingerbread from this woman.
No, not at all.
I would not accept anything. And like when you're introduced with her, she's literally living in this like crypt-like mad scientist lab where she's been just rotting essentially, or doing her little experiments or her magic potions or whatever she's been doing for 1,000 years. And absolutely, they captured that so well. Just gross as a character. And of course, seeing Radu interact with her as in like, oh, he's just devoted to his sweet mummy and she just wants the Bloodstone. She wants this girl destroyed. She's just a hateful person. But Radu's like, no. She is my fledgling. I will teach her to love blood, and I will love her and hold her and squeeze her and call her George. Like basically, this is my baby now. Yeah. I'll keep her. I'll get you the Bloodstone because I don't really care about that. I'm very happy totally killing humans left, right, and center for my blood. But you can get that Bloodstone. And, man, she's just so gross. You can almost feel her through the screen, how nasty she is. And, the woman who plays her, Pamela Gordon, is like, picture Edna Mode as like a real person. And she's this tiny little, like, oh, I'm sweet, I'm happy. In the documentary, in the making of documentary from Video Zone, like special that they had about it, she just was like, happy to be in Romania. She's just really sweet. She loved the culture and everything. And then here she is playing this decrepit monster. Lovely.
Crazy. That's what Romania will do to you, especially at this time. Like it's crazy what they went through to make, especially these first 3 Subspecies movie, including Bloodstone, because these were the first movies shot in Romania after the fall of communism in the country, where like their entire government wasn't set back up yet when Charlie Band's like, let's just go shoot a vampire movie here. It's like, oh, okay. Well, like, there's not really a governing body here, but it's cheap. Let's go shoot it there. So that's why he sent Ted Nicolau out to Romania to shoot for him, and then ended up working pretty well for Full Moon for most of the decade of the 90s. I mean, Charlie owned a castle out there, so I think it worked out pretty well for him.
Oh yeah, I mean, like they were talking very much, like Ted Nicolau himself was talking about how food and accommodations and everything were just so not what people were used to. And that's one of the reasons why they had to recast the character of Michelle, because the original actress was like, once was enough for me. I'm not coming back to Romania. But, just little things they couldn't really take for granted. Apparently there's sheep everywhere that they had to keep, to get from place to place. They had to keep shuffling them off the road. And of course, the idea of shooting a vampire movie in Romania, I'm sure most Romanians were kind of like, what kind of bullshit American nonsense is this? Like, how ridiculous. Vampires are stupid. But here they are making, a vampire movie. And I have to say, like, probably one of the better vampire movies of the early 90s. And I'm not talking about, Bram Stoker's Dracula, of course, that came out about the same time. Kind of hard to compare against that. But for being low budget straight to video, this was really good.
For a movie made on probably like 1/20th of the budget of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and they're pulling out some of the same tricks that Francis Ford Coppola did, especially with its shadow work. So in the first movie, we really don't leave the castle at all. It's mostly in Radu's castle. In this one, though, we get to go to Bucharest. So we get to like explore the city in this one, which we really didn't get a whole lot of in the first one at all. And we get it through Michelle running down the streets, and you have like these giant shadows of Radu chasing her down the streets. of Romania, and it's incredible. It looks incredible. It's something like straight out of Murnau's Nosferatu from 100 years before. Like it's incredible stuff that Ted Nicolau is putting on display here. That he's showing off real filmmaking prowess by having like incredible special effects in that first 10 minutes, and then right after he's like, yeah, I'm going to show off like what I can do as like almost a silent movie in this.
Mm-hmm. I love the feel of this movie. I think we were talking right before we started recording that it's really about the vibes.
It's a vibes movie, yeah.
You do get that. I mean, you get Michelle's fear and her, self-disgust. I mean, she's turning into a bloodsucker, and she clearly doesn't want to. And when she does finally feed on a human, like, she throws it all up because she's just like, I don't want to be this monster. Like, I've seen what a monster is like, and I don't want to be him. And is just constantly having to confront him because he's like, hey, I'll let you think that you're going to get away from me, but you're not. You have to come to me because you have no choice. This is who you are and what you are now. And just it's such a powerful statement. It's very similar to like an Anne Rice, to the Anne Rice books, where this is like she didn't necessarily choose this, obviously, but there's no way that she can escape it. There's no cure. There's no like, oh, you'll come out of it. It'll be fine. No, she's in Romania. She's never going home. She can't. And so she has to understand that this is how she has to figure out a way to live. Like she calls her sister to come and help her, but what can her sister do? Nothing really.
Find a guy to hook up with. That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, she does. She finds like the one American dude who's there, who's just sort of like, I'll just hang out with you.
Yeah.
The embassy doesn't want me to get involved in this shit, but yeah,
I think that's what makes this movie stand out, though, is Michelle's character. Because you look at like any other vampire movie, especially Dracula movies, which this is obviously taking plenty of inspiration from, but it's always about, a woman in peril, a woman wearing her nightgown getting chased by Dracula. But it's always a human woman. Here it's, oh, I'm turning into a vampire while the guy who turned me is also chasing me down. So it's kind of like the next level up from those traditional vampire stories of, oh, we're adding more complexity to our female hero of this, where she isn't just a damsel in distress. She's actually like actively going through changes and trying to figure out, all right, I'm changing. I have to feed to survive, but I don't want to feed because I'm not that monster that fed on me. And it's a complex character, especially looking at other full moon movies. They didn't deal in complex characters at all. Like you look at Puppet Master, it's just a bunch of puppets that kill people. Like there's no complexity to these characters. So I think that's what makes this really stand out, is the complexity of Michelle.
Yeah. Denise Duffy, as an actress, I think she does a really great job of embodying like this desperation, this fear, and she looks fantastic doing it too. There's obviously a point in this film where she has to take refuge in it looks like an opera house, gorgeous opera house. I'm glad they found this location. It's amazing. But she's surrounded by all these costumes. She's got a glass coffin from presumably a Snow White production that she can sleep in, all sorts of great stuff. And she ends up going to an underground goth club. And with the opera clothes that she's found, she puts together this thing. She looks like this really cool goth,
almost like
she
gypsy
fits
goth.
in. Yeah, like a gypsy goth. She fits in with this crowd. And that's kind of fantastic because, you go from being this American archaeology student or some kind of like the student character from the first one into this one fully embracing this, this otherworldly vampire character, but also then the underground scene. I think they just did a really good job of transitioning that. Because, of course, the first time you see her, she's in the white flowing, gown, like the nightgown that you see in a lot of vampire films for the women or for the brides of Dracula or whatever. But once she changes out of that, she goes right back into her civvy clothes, her American clothes. But that's taken from her pretty early on when all of her stuff is left in the hotel and now she's forced to improvise. And now she's made the transition. She's now not her old self. She's almost, the full vampire, but now she's kind of in this cool, this cool middle of the transformation. And she makes a pretty cool, rock goth girl. Now, she gets like the one kind of like losery guy who's there to bring him back. Like there are a lot of cooler people in there that she could have fed on, but yeah, I mean, she
was just picking on the guy who didn't belong. He obviously didn't belong in that club. Yeah, she
with
took
that
him
jean
out
jacket,
of his
forget
misery.
it, man.
Yeah.
But she's still is trying to cling to that humanity, and it's a losing battle. And I think that Denise Duffy does an amazing job. So.
Yeah, she's incredible in this. She mentions that she if you haven't read this and if you like full moon movies, I highly recommend it. It's a book called It Came from the Video Aisle.
Yes.
And it's a huge, 300-page retrospective of, every full moon movie from 1989 until 2012 or something like that.
Wow.
So, a huge companion piece to those. But Denise Duff talks in there about being kind of like the accidental scream queen, where she was a soap opera actress before this, and then got cast in Subspecies. And then from Subspecies on, she's been able to appear in the rest of the Subspecies movies. She's been in a bunch of other horror movies as well. So she kind of became this accidental scream queen because of this movie. But I think that soap opera nature shines in movies like this. Vampire stories are soap operas. That's exactly what they are. Just with a ton of blood and cool special effects. You don't see that on Days of Our Lives. But I think she's incredible in this. Kevin Spiritus also, I believe, maybe now does soap operas, or was right around this time. I think he had the opposite path. He started in horror and then went to soap operas, I think was his career trajectory. But that soap opera type acting works really well in this movie because everyone has to be over the top and melodramatic. Anders Hove is... it's kind of surprising he didn't do much outside of the Subspecies movies because he's incredible in all of these. He is a terrifying vampire. He is one of the best vampires of all time. Radu is just, for me, he's right up there with Christopher Lee's Dracula, Bela Lugosi Dracula. He's right up there with them.
Yeah, I mean, the design, because you mentioned Nosferatu, and not just the way that Ted Nicolau chooses to film certain scenes and really kind of play into the use of the shadow and the moving sort of figure there, but also just how the makeup is done for Radu. He's very memorable as a vampire. He's very Nosferatu-like. Greg Canham, who did the original design, and it was tweaked a bit for the second and third movies by Wayne Toth and Norman Cabrera. But the long fingers, the constant, the sharp teeth that don't really fit in his mouth, but almost look like they're constantly stabbing himself because he's always got a trickle of blood. There's always blood coming out, and just his wild hair and his sunken eyes, and just the way that his features are very angular, in a way that clearly is not fully human. Just a really distinctive look. And so you get that Nosferatu, you get sort of maybe a more modern vampire, but this is not a human. This guy could not pass for human, and the way
No. It's very clear he's been in that castle for hundreds and thousands of years. It's very
he does
clear.
Not get out.
He does. Yeah. He has not seen the sun in that amount of time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's often missing in vampire movies is them looking like they've been stuck underground for hundreds of thousands of years. And I think that's kind of missing in a lot of vampire movies, but this movie does it perfectly because it does play a lot of that Count Orlok Nosferatu version of vampires instead of the Dracula where he's living in a cool updated castle and stuff.
Oh yeah. There's nothing sexy about Radu.
No.
Modern vampire films and even Dracula. I mean, Dracula is like this too. I mean, going back to the 30s, going back to the Boris Karloff Dracula, he's fashionable, maybe a little bit old fashioned, but very well put together, handsome in a way, just somebody that that you could see women just sort of, really falling for. Hey, this hot guy's got an accent, or whatever. Radu is not that. Radu is repulsive and he's vicious. And, again, the subspecies who don't play so much in this film and in the second film, those are his little minions. I mean, they're these little demonic creatures that he commands. And, he's just a bad person. He's obsessive. He has no morals, no empathy. And that's the kind of vampire that you don't see a lot now, because it's, people like the sexier vampire. Christopher Lee makes a very sexy Count Dracula, from the 50s and a little bit later on. And then, of course, you've got the Anne Rice vampires who are all they're all models and they're all hot, whatever.
Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, okay.
Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, or even in the new television series, I mean, they're all very attractive people, and you could see how they could easily get victims, that people will actually just be drawn to them because of how they look and everything. But nobody wants to come close to Radu. This guy, no. And unfortunately for Michelle, she's kind of stuck with him. She doesn't want to be, but he's the one who turned her. He's her scion, and he is going to drag her kicking and screaming back to the castle with him for all eternity, or until somebody stakes her, I guess.
Or who knows if I think that's kind of one of the cool things about the vampire mythology and the subspecies movies, is that it takes that traditional Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, traditional vampire stories, but also again, he got staked in the heart, he got his head cut off and still came back. But how do you kill these guys? I don't know. It's never fully clear in this entire series how you get rid of a vampire.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Stefan, I think that was an easy way to get rid of him, but it involved Radu staking him and then leaving his casket open for the sun to completely disintegrate.
For the sun. So burning up is probably the only way to get rid of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even then, Radu gets set on fire in the third one. So, and he's fine. He shows up in the fourth one. So it is really kind of a fascinating thing. And even at the end of the second one here, where Rebecca and actually I think it's Michelle who has the ceremonial knife, stabs him multiple times, misses every major organ, whatever. She stabs him in the face, below the eye, and stabs him in the chest, and stabs him all over the place. So he's speared, in the center of his chest, not at his heart. So there's clearly, we know that he survives into the third one and beyond. But I mean, it's taken a lot to kill this guy. He is not, he's not an easy one to kill, and even cutting his head off is not a way to end him. Yeah, just a really, I would say, a really terrifying version of a vampire that is more or less unstoppable.
He's more beast than man in these.
Yeah, his humanity is completely stripped away. He has the shape of a human, sort of, and a really cool again, the cool trench coat. But that's pretty much it. That's all that's left. And to have that stalking Michelle throughout the whole movie, just really good filmmaking. A lot of the things that I enjoyed reading about this movie and learning about this movie, a lot of those stories came from Ted Nicolau himself. And one of my favorites of his stories about the making of these three movies is when he went to go and start the first one. They were having a lot of issues with the concept of the subspecies. So these were creatures who were small, diminutive. They're supposed to be the servants of Radu in this, and they play a major role. And I mean, they are the title of the film, Subspecies. Doesn't really say vampires, even though this is a vampire series. This is a vampire story. And Ted Nicolau also kind of had that opinion that why do we want to keep these subspecies things? What do they bring to the plot? And in fact, I think he has one of my favorite little comments here, and I've got a great quote from him. The downfall of the first subspecies is the fact that the creatures never really had an integral part in the narrative. But it did get rentals. It encouraged people flocked to that video cassette. So they're like, ooh, these little creatures, they're cool. And there's vampires too. Oh, awesome. But we later realized that the viewers were more interested in the vampires than the subspecies themselves. And Ted basically did a full-on "I told you so" to Charles Band, because Charles was set on these subspecies from the get-go.
Charlie Band loves his little tiny terrors. It is
He loves
his
his tiny
calling
things.
card in cinema. He loves it.
Yeah, and so he was like, he had already commissioned the poster, and he had sold the movie based on, like in the distribution on the movie, based on the fact that there were going to be these little tiny creatures in there. So we had to put them in. And Ted Nicolau was like, fuck it. And they tried, in the first film, they tried using sort of humans. They used some circus performers and dancers just in these outfits and makeup, and it just looked terrible. And even Mr. Charlie Band thought the same, and they were able to actually get sort of rod puppets and stop motion creatures to be added to that. But again, low budget. The creatures themselves look great, but their integration in the film didn't look super in that first one. So blue screen at the time and like superimposed and wasn't great. And so in the second and third film, Ted was like, I don't really have to use them that often. And so they show up very briefly at the beginning and then very briefly at the end of the third one. But that leaves room for them to focus on the main story, which is vampires. This is a vampire movie.
I like the subspecies. I think they're cool companions to Radu, because Radu is the main event. He's the reason you watch these movies. But I love the fact that he has these little minions that can do his bidding at any time that he wants. I love that they're little weird cave dwelling type creatures that can just do his bidding for him. So I think they're integral to the subspecies series, just not that they have to be the main characters, which I think is what Charlie Band was definitely going for in that first movie. And then Ted Nicolau, being the incredible creative that he is like, we'll start to slowly fade them out in the sequels. Even I don't even know how much they're in the fourth or fifth one, really. I don't know if they're in the fourth one at all. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched that one, but yeah, so I don't know if they're even in that one. I think they're fun. And also, as far as the title goes, subspecies, we're talking about the little creatures being the subspecies. I also think it works for vampires, because that's what vampires are. They're kind of underground. They're hidden. They're species below. Like they're the subspecies in this, as well as the little tiny terrors as well. But
that's a good point. I didn't really think about that. I was thinking about like subspecies like, the subspecies are the little guys, and now they're stuck with the title. So if you notice, like with all of the sequels, it's the name of the sequel that is the main title. So for Subspecies 2, it's Bloodstone, and it's Bloodstone Subspecies 2, and all the rest of the ones are blood something, and then subspecies at the bottom. But vampires they're an underground species. They're either the evolution or the devolution or some kind of like horrible demonic mix of humanity and monster. But yeah, that really does work. It's not just the little guys. It's the main guy himself.
Actual, vampires. They're the subspecies. That's how I've always looked at it, while also being like, and there's these cool little stop motion creatures that are technically the subspecies.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of the creatures from The Gate. And that's I think that's kind of what Ted Nicolau was trying to go for when they were originally trying to use people. Actual, actors as these creatures, but it just doesn't work when you don't have all the money behind it that they did for a movie like The Gate to make them look great. And I think that's those limitations, it really affected, I think, the first movie. And since they didn't necessarily have the limitations in the second and third, but Ted more or less got his way not to really have them. I think the effects with subspecies at the very beginning of the second one look pretty good. They look better than they did in the first one. But also they didn't have to spend as much money, and they already had the models. They already had all the everything already built, and so it was pretty quick. They could, here you go. It explains how Radu gets back to life, and now go off to the basement. We'll see you later.
Go away until we need you again.
Yeah, I thought this was just so much fun of a movie, and with the setting in Romania, that works. Just it gives it this other level where, like you said, nobody else is making these movies in Romania yet. I mean, like it just opened up to the West, and they're still, they're still trying to navigate a transition to capitalism and democracy. It's not, it's not the place that people are flocking to yet.
No, and I think that's so. I wasn't a video store kid by the time video stores were kind of ending. Was when I would have been starting to rent movies. So like Full Moon was a complete blind spot for me for a long time until I started to discover it, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, and started going through like the Puppet Master series and the Evil Bong series and like everything that they put out. And then when I got to Subspecies, I'm like, oh, this is the kind of Full Moon I like. So when we get to like Subspecies and Castle Freak and Pit and the Pendulum, where they're shooting in Romania at Charlie's Castle, at Castel Studios in Romania, which is that big castle in this movie. I've always grown up like loving Romania and loving vampire lore and loving castles. So like I think that's why I've gravitated towards Full Moon. Is because Charlie Band's like, I'm gonna go buy a castle and then we're gonna go shoot in it because I own a castle. Why don't we do that? That sounds fun. I'm like, if I owned a castle, I'd shoot a movie in it too. Like that sounds cool. And that's one of the reasons I love Charlie Band, like for warts and all, as a producer and a director and writer. There's plenty of warts in his filmography, but no one else is making movies like Charlie Band has made movies for the last 40 plus years. Again, like you said, no one's shooting movies in Romania less than a year after the fall of communism, where they don't have any form of government really set up yet, except Charlie Band, where he's like, we can shoot cheap and it's got a castle that we can use. And there's a bunch of locals that will work on this very cheap, and food's cheap. So like so much stuff was like, this feels very Charlie Band, but also it worked in their favor when you get all the incredible shots in this. The castle looks incredible. Romania looks incredible. Like, again, no one's shooting there. You're going to stand apart from everyone else that's trying to make, Southern California look like Romania.
100%. I mean, at this time, shooting on location. I mean, we're talking like late 80s, early 90s, shooting on location in places, that was for big budget movies.
Yeah.
You don't do that for straight to video. You don't do that for the low budget horror flicks of the 80s and early 90s at that point. You do it on a soundstage. You do it in somebody's you do it just like it in Big Bear, and then pretend that it's somewhere in ancient, in some Europe or
Francis
wherever.
Ford Coppola wasn't going to Romania to shoot Dracula, but Charlie Band said, let's do it. That's crazy.
Do it. And it's wild. I mean, and the people there, I wonder what they were thinking about this. I know, one of the things they mentioned is it's kind of disrespectful to come to our country and bring up vampires because vampires are silly. But here's a group of, a tight-knit group of filmmakers who are specifically coming to Romania because it fits what they want to do. And they're spending money, they're, living local, they're, learning how to get along with, people who are there. That must have given them, the Romanian crew who was there working with them must have given them some additional sort of confidence. It's like, hey, what we've got here, maybe we can expand our own film industry. Maybe we can learn from this, or maybe we can take our own skills that we have and help make this movie cool.
Yeah. And for the most part, most of the cast and crew that isn't, the core 3-4 American actors and Ted Nicolau, it's all local people that are working on these movies, that are doing the lighting, building sets, working in catering. These are all the local people. So they're giving them jobs while doing this. So, and I think it helps that the two big directors that Charlie Band sent over to Romania were Ted Nicolau and Stuart Gordon, which are arguably the two best directors in Charlie Band's kind of motley crew of directors that he has, but the two that can actually make incredible movies. And I think it helped the locals realize, we're not just going to make some schlocky nudie flick, where we're actually going to put effort into creating cinema, creating art in these movies.
Right. And, not to say that there isn't any nudity in this one,
There is, of course, because I'm
a
sure
little bit,
Charlie
but
Band's like, you have to.
you gotta have some boobs somewhere, but it's not, it's not lascivious. I think it makes perfect sense that it's fine for what it is, and it's not like the main focus of this film. Michelle as a character, she's too scared to be sexy at this point. Like she is running for her life. She's trying to, navigate this change in herself. And so to focus on it and make it sexy at this point seems kind of strange. And I think that they did a good job in navigating that.
Vulnerability,
Yeah,
it's vulnerability, not trying to be like, oh, look, hey, there's boobs on screen.
Yeah. It's not like the salacious, like, oh my God, we gotta have all this nudity. No. Ted Nicolau, you mentioned, like, yeah, he's one of the best directors that Full Moon had in their stable. I didn't realize this, but I went back and I read a little bit about him, and he had started one of his first like movie jobs was on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, working in the sound group, and it's his van. That's the van that they drive in the movie. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But he's been around and he's seen a lot of different sides of the filmmaking, the filmmaking industry. So sound and editing, that's how he met Charlie Band and got, involved in Full Moon and Empire, before Full Moon, was that he was editing movies. And it's funny that after he did Subspecies 2 and 3, 1, 2, and 3, he was like, I think I'm kind of done with horror right now. I think we're going to do something nice and, do a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Do some comedy, do some light fantasy.
He did Dragon World, and I think he might have done Remote, which is their like Home Alone knockoff.
Yeah, he did Remote. And his first movies, like his first couple of movies, he did TerrorVision.
Love TerrorVision.
And TerrorVision is great. And then
he did Bad Channels for Full Moon.
But yeah, I mean, he definitely had an eye for it, and he started off in horror, even if he didn't like necessarily continue afterwards. But at the same time, like he's, for anybody who could make this movie what it was, I think he was the perfect choice, and great. Just really, really great.
We actually had a brief interaction with Ted Nicolau two years ago. So Sam and I, with Screams from the Basement, we host monthly horror movies down at our historic state theater in South Dakota. So we host horror movies there every month. And the first one we were going to show was TerrorVision. It just so happened that the theater was going to play it, and we were talking about it on the podcast. And the theater's like, hey, since you guys are talking about this on the podcast, you want to come host? Yes, absolutely. And we're like, well, if we're going to do that, we got to make it big because this is a big deal for us. So I reached out to Ted Nicolau and was like, hey, we're doing this. We're showing the movie. It's our first time doing, like hosting the movie and kind of doing our own version of like Joe Bob before the movie. And we're like, can you film an intro for it? And he's like, yes, absolutely. Next day, he sends us like this 5-minute intro video about TerrorVision that we played before the movie just for the audience in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So he is the coolest. He has so many stories. Like that dude just loves making movies, and it's present in all of his work that he just loves doing this.
I could see this being remade at some point in the future. Maybe, do another 1, 2, and 3 remake trilogy. But trying to think about how they would do it better. I mean, other than changing the budget and like the effects and things, the direction in these films, and 2 in particular, the cast that they have in it, especially Radu, especially Michelle, like and Mummy, are so perfectly done that I'm like, how could you make that better? How could you change that in a way? And I think a lot of that has to do with Ted. Ted just did, such a great job on these. You're like, oh, well.
This is the one I've heard Charlie Band talk about the Subspecies series with him and Ted. And Charlie has said, this is kind of the one series that isn't a Charlie Band series, like Puppet Master, Evil Bong, Trancers, Ginger Dead Man. They're all Charlie Band series that have other directors, weaving in and out. This is the only one in the Full Moon catalog that's the same director, the same creative team behind each. And he has said this is a Ted Nicolau series. This isn't a Charlie Band series. And I think that's super cool. That just shows the trust that he had in Ted Nicolau, especially after the success of the first movie, to kind of just be like, go make what you want. And even when we get to the fifth one, which came out in, I think, 2023, finally, when the fifth one came out. And that's a prequel to all of the first four Subspecies movies. But again, Ted Nicolau behind the camera. Anders Hove comes back as Radu, telling the origin of Radu. Denise Duff is in it, but as a different character. Kevin Spiritus is in it as a different character. So he's just working again with this kind of makeshift family that he had with the Subspecies movies to make something. That one, if you haven't watched it yet, highly recommend. It's just as good as 2 and 3. I think it's right up there. It's easily the best full moon movie in 20 plus years.
When watching this, I purposefully did not watch the first one, and I didn't watch the third one. I wanted to focus 100% on this one because it had been a long time since I've seen it. So I wanted to make sure that I had it very fresh in my mind, and I wasn't sort of having to navigate it with the first and third one. But I mean, this one as a standalone, obviously there's a direct sequel that happens minutes after the end of this one with the cliffhanger. And then the first one, it happens minutes before this one starts. But you don't have to have seen the first one. You don't have to have seen the third one. But of course, you watch the second one, you're going to want to see the third one. But I think this one, just as a self-contained film, works. Not just as a sequel, but just as a standalone film. And, that's a testament to just good filmmaking. Doesn't matter what the size of the budget is. Doesn't matter if you're releasing it on the big screen, if it goes straight to video or digital. This is good.
It's a more fun series to watch all of than the Puppet Master movies. I'll put it that way.
And if you're going to watch the Puppet Master series 1, 2, and 3, maybe 4, you're fine. Again, thank you so much for suggesting this one because it made me nostalgic for Full Moon in a way that I didn't think I ever could be. You've just listened to another episode of the Bear Cave of Terror, and if you haven't seen Bloodstone, Subspecies 2, or any of the other Subspecies series, or after listening to us are struck with an irresistible compulsion to watch it again, they are all streaming on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Pluto TV, and of course on Full Moon's own streaming app, Full Moon Features. And it's also available to purchase digitally and on physical media, or maybe you can find it on VHS. And Casey, if listeners would like to get in touch, how would they do that?
They can find Screams from the Basement online, screamsfromthebasement.com. That's our own website. And then new episodes every single Friday, where every other week we're either talking about a double feature or interviewing someone from the industry who makes our screams become nightmares.
Awesome. And if you want, you can also follow the Bear Cave of Terror on Blue Sky and Instagram at Bear Cave of Terror, all one word, or send an email to bearcaveofterror@gmail.com. A list of sources will be available in the show notes if you'd like to learn more about the movie or movies. And remember, always make Mummy happy. You don't want to see her unhappy. She's already pretty gross. Good night, everyone.
Do you speak English, yes?
Yes. Do you?
Not so much. I know from TV. Colombo, Street of San Francisco, Big Bird. It's funny, that Big Bird, yeah?